All right. Well, welcome to everyone. This is, it's hard to believe it's been 30 years since the Rockets won that title in 1994. I know for a lot of us, it feels almost like yesterday in a sense. So we're going to just, talk about that a little bit. Matt Bullard, who was on that team and now works for the Rockets, is with us, and Mario Elie will be in and out. He has a day job with the Pelicans as a scout, so he's having to do a meeting there as well. And then we have Fran Blinebury. Fran had covered the Rockets for almost 10 years before that title season and was a columnist that year. And I think if anyone had the pulse of the team that year, it was Fran. I remember Carol Dawson used to always, the GM would say, Fran, I never can get it. When we're doing well, you give us a hard time, and when we're not doing well, you write good things. So anyway, you had the pulse. And then Jonathan Feigen, who was with us covering the finals that year and has been covering the Rockets ever since, is with us as well. So anyway, thanks everyone for being with us. We're going to talk for about 30 minutes or so, maybe look at some old photos, and then we'll have questions. You guys can put questions into the chat on your Zoom, and we'll pick out a few and go from there. So anyway, well, Matt, since you look the nicest of all of us and most official, maybe we'll just start with you. You've been associated with the Rockets a long time since the title, but that year, you'd been with the team a couple of years. Just how do you think about that title these days? Do you think about it a lot?
Yeah, I still do. It's one of those things that when you accomplish something as big as winning a world championship with a group of brothers, to accomplish something like that, it's something that never goes away. It's something that can never be taken from you. I was able to speak with Rudy earlier this morning. He was here at Toyota Center, and we got to talk a little bit about the championship years. And Rudy mentions that the things that we went through in the championship era, not just the championship year, but the few years that led up to that, really bound us together as brothers. The things that we went through, the fires that we had to get through, the Choke City event where we lost our first 2 home games to Phoenix and then bounced back to win 2 games in Phoenix and come back to Houston and end up winning that series. Those types of things, when you go through those things with a group of guys or a group of people, it's something that will bind you together for life. And every time we see each other, it's like seeing family, and just being able to be around Rudy, or we'll be able to talk to Mario on this a little bit later. It's really something that really sticks with me.
Yeah. Well, you talked about things that kind of brought the team together. I mean, that previous season was so close as well, because you had the 7-game series with Seattle. And, it's like they seemed to be the team that had always been in the way for a while there. So I guess it was a nice thing.
Yeah, that's 100% right. Talking about the years coming up to the championship year, the Seattle Supersonics were the best team in the West, and we couldn't get past them. That was a team that had Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, Detlef Schrempf, Sam Perkins, and George Karl was their coach. And the way they defended our offense, the way they defended Hakeem Olajuwon, they doubled him every time. They were able to rotate and cover all of our shooters. We really struggled with them. And the thing about that series in '93 with Seattle was we lost in Game 7 in Seattle. I think it was in overtime, and that pain that we felt in our heart losing that series, and then having to fly all the way back to Houston on that airplane ride, it really stuck with us. And I feel like that was the series, the pain that we felt there, that drove us the next year in '93, '94 to rip off our first 15 wins of the season in '93, '94. And once we got off to that kind of a start in '93, '94, I think we had the confidence that, hey, we can do this. We can go all the way.
Yeah. Well, talking about that 15-game streak to start the season, I know one of those games, was it the 15th was in New York, or was that just
It
one of
was.
the?
Yep.
Yeah. So I know, Fran, you were there with Eddie Sefko covering that. Did you have any sense of when they won the 15th that they might be playing the Knicks, 6 months later?
Well, in our NBA preseason section, I did pick the Rockets over the Knicks in the NBA Finals. But they put the Rockets that night. Obviously they were building up to it through all the 15, but that night in New York, they put the way the Florida State mascot rides out and puts the spear in the middle of the field before a game. That's when the Rockets, I think, put down that spear, because the Knicks, Matt, I think, sure you remember that, they were talking big time. We want them to come here undefeated. We're going to be the ones to take them down. And from the beginning of the game, the Rockets came out and said, no, you're not. And it was, if you could say there was a finals kind of an atmosphere, that was it for a game in November or early December.
Yeah, I think it was the first week of December, I think so.
Yeah. But from the start, everybody was out. Gloves were off. It was as serious a regular season game as you'll ever see, and it was pretty much as serious a beating as you'll see it. A team like the Knicks take. The Rockets just said, no, you're not. We're going to set this record here tonight.
And we did. We won that 15th game in New York, and then we get on the bus after the game and go to the airport to fly to Atlanta the next night. It was a back-to-back. We had to play in Atlanta the next night, and the bus was stopped at the airport for hours. We couldn't figure out why they wouldn't allow us to get to our airplane to fly to Atlanta. And we ended up landing in Atlanta at like 5 a.m. If you know the Atlanta airport, if you're on one of those terminals way out there, we had to walk like miles with all of our bags to get to the bus, to get to the hotel in Atlanta. And we ended up losing that next night in Atlanta. And that really made us mad that we had such a bad travel situation to get to Atlanta and losing that game in Atlanta. Then we ended up ripping off like 7 more. I think we were 22-1 before that whole streak stopped. So that was the type of start that we really needed to give us the confidence.
Yeah.
I'm going to back up because Mario Elie is now joining us. What do you say, Mario?
How you guys doing? Good to see my boy Bull and my boy Blind.
Hey, Mario.
You guys doing like that 34 back there, Blind. You should have a 17 jersey up there too, baby.
I'll send you my address and you can send me one.
I sure will, brother. I sure will.
Go ahead and tell him what Akeem jersey that is.
That is the last game jersey that Akeem ever wore as a Rocket.
Wow.
He kicked it off and gave it to Fran.
He gave it to me in the locker room after that game, signed it, and so anybody gives you any bull that it's in the Hall of Fame, it's not. It's in my house.
That is so cool right there.
Yeah.
That's legendary right there.
But Mario, we were talking about the start of the season, and Matt was talking about the 15-game winning streak and the feelings after the series that ended the previous season. And because you're here, one of the things Akeem has told me is that training camp with Mario coming in, Sam getting drafted, and the attitude from the loss to Seattle, that training camp was unbelievably competitive. Is that what you?
Absolutely. It was super intense, that hot-ass gym in Galveston, Texas. We was getting after it. Me and Sam against Kenny and Vernon. I mean, the games were great. They were intense. I was so excited to put on a Rocket uniform. I saw the type of team we had, and I wasn't surprised on the start that we got out the gate, that 15-0 start.
Yeah.
You guys know right then that you could be champions?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially me watching. Me and Vernon were friends when I was at Portland. It's funny, we're talking about that Seattle series. We got eliminated when I was with the Blazers. I drove my new 300 CE up to Seattle to watch that game 7. It was just an amazing game. Kenny did get fouled. Gary Payton fouled the hell out of him on the jumper, but they didn't call it. but it was a hell of a series. I'm like, man, this is a good Houston team. Then 2 months later, I get a call from the Portland GM. Hey, we sending you to Houston. And rest is history.
Now, I think
Reid,
at
you
the
want to do
same,
this, or do I get to?
Huh?
I'm asking Reid. We got another special guest. Reid, you want to introduce, or should I?
well, we'll let Rudy get settled first. That's he's going to be.
Well, you just
Rudy
without
is
the
in Galveston
introduction.
today. He was at Toyota Center earlier, and he said he was going to try to speed to Galveston in time to get to join us. And so I'm glad I saw him walk by there. So I'm glad he made it safely. I hated to envision Rocket legend Rudy Tomjanovich in car accident trying to get in time for Zoom, but so
There he is.
so Rudy has made it, and that is just we'll let him find his button, and I don't think Rudy.
Hey guys,
I don't think Rudy needs any introduction. Two of his players here, Mario and Matt, and then he's got.
yeah, I heard a little bit about Mario talking. Let me give you a little background on that. The year before, we were on the East Coast and we had played Charlotte. After the game, we went to a sports bar and we tuned in to a Portland game, and Clyde was injured and Mario started and guarded the other team's best player and wound up getting 20 points himself. And I just made the comment, it says, we got to get that guy. We got to get a guy like him or get him. And he became available the next year for only a second. And, he was a very big piece of our success.
Yeah. Well, I believe, Leslie Alexander used to always take credit for bringing Mario in as the missing piece.
Rudy T, baby, at the bar, brother. Rudy T at the bar watching me hoop. You're the one that brought me in. And Mark Berman was the only guy when I came in to interview me. That's why Mark Berman's my boy. When I got traded to Houston, there was one media guy there to interview me. I'm like, man, they don't know my resume? Well, I guess now they do now. So
Mario, you should have put one of the rings.
Huh?
You should have put one of the rings on. You've got a whole collection of them now.
I got a couple. Texas been good to me. 2 in Houston, 1 in San Antonio, but I always cherish my time with the Rockets. I bleed mustard and red. I always see everybody like, oh, you want one with San Antonio? I said, no. I'm a Rocket, baby. I'm a Rocket. So I'm a Rocket first, always and forever.
Well, we were talking earlier to Mario, to Matt, about the 15-0 start, the 22-1 beginning. Did you know then, or did you think then that we can go all the way?
Who was that directed to?
You, Rudy.
Oh,
You're the man.
Yeah. You always sort of have that in your mind, that being the goal, but you can't get cocky and start jinxing yourself by throwing it out there, but it's always, you're thinking of perfection and you're never going to reach it. But I sure liked how we played. It goes back to the year before, and Mario wasn't with us then, I don't think. We were horrible. We were on a 7-game losing streak. I'm just a young coach, and I got to show the tape over and over of us getting out-hustled, getting beat by fast breaks we couldn't get back, and just pounding it. Guys, we can't be worrying about offense. We gotta be a good defensive team. And then it finally clicked in. And I remember we beat a good Utah team. Then the rest of that season, we went 41-1, 41-11. I'm sorry. And then we started out with the 15-0. But that's when the Rockets found out what it takes, and we had our the additions and having Mario to add to our depth. And Sam came in, and piece by piece, we made it happen.
Well, the other thing a lot of people don't recall, and I'm not sure I remember the number, but Matt's made reference to this over the years. So there was the late night arrival or early morning arrival in Atlanta, lose the game in Atlanta, and then I think you win the next 7. So that was actually 22-1 start to that year.
Yeah, that's amazing. But what's crazy, San Antonio caught us with 10 games to go. And theirs was a quiet. They didn't have the big streak. They just consistently won. But we got hot again at the end, and we did have the home court advantage. But that was scary after we put that together, how they were just clawing back into it.
Rudy, I was looking at it. You guys from March 13th on finished 17-7. So you had it together going into the playoffs. What problems, what came up in that middle part of the season that you guys had to overcome? I mean, Mario, Matt, anybody?
Well, it's a long season, and you're going to go through ups and downs. And I think that's one of the main things that I learned playing for Rudy was, never get too high after a win and never get too low after a loss. And we did get off to a great start that season, but in an 82 game season, you're not going to be able to hold that same standard throughout an entire 82 game schedule. And so when we did sort of dip there in the middle of the season, I don't think we lost our confidence. I think it was just one of those things where, maybe the ball wasn't going in or whatever. But when we did get on that run to finish the season, I felt like going into the playoffs, we were the team to beat, but nobody else felt like that. Nobody else around the league thought that, that we weren't getting the respect that we felt like we deserved. And so it was like we had to go show people every single night.
Earlier, Matt brought up the 2 losses to start the series against the Suns and the Choke City headlines. And it led to one of the great coaching decisions. I'll let Rudy talk about it, but what Rudy chose to show in the next video session and what he chose not to show. And then Matt and Mario, what was your reaction after Rudy tells us what he did when he did that? So Rudy, what made the decision about what you showed in the video session that followed Choke City?
Well, I gave it a lot of thought. What do you do in this kind of a situation? And I said, these guys, they feel bad about it. They don't need to be scolded or critiqued. We need to get back the energy and see how we got the lead. So I just put on all positives. And our guys didn't even want to, I remember Max didn't even want to look up. I mean, guys were embarrassed. And I had to act as a cheerleader and say, look up here. They can't stop you, man. These guys are, we got complacent. We started aiming. We started playing careful. We got to play aggressive, and we can do it. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Max went crazy in that next game there, and maybe had a career high for the playoffs. And it was just a great deal of our team hanging in there and believing in themselves. And then I remember the next year, Mario, I remember it was in the San Antonio locker room, and Mario said the words, let's stay hungry and humble. And I remember him saying that. I says, man, that's a hell of a saying. Then they came out with those banners. But, that's what it has to be. You got to respect who you're playing, but, you got to go after it.
Yeah, because Rudy said it. Rudy put on a positive tape. Rudy said, man, we got 2 leads up 20 on these dudes. We can beat these dudes. And then something clicked in us. And then Rudy said, Max, you can get by this dude, man. This dude can't guard you. And Rudy said it perfectly. Max came in I mean, 3 points in the first half, 31 in the second half. And that's Mad Max. You light that fire on that guy, ain't nobody blowing it out. Max got cooking that second half, and we all as a team, let's get that man the ball. Once Max start talking that shit and start hitting that shot, he cannot be guarded. And we fed off his swag that game. He was shaking his head, talking mess to the Phoenix bench. I got the ball. I couldn't wait to get it to Max. He didn't even have the ball in his hand 2 seconds. I ran down the court. I knew it was good. 6, 7 threes in the second half. Mad Max, like Mad Max said in the video, a dream. I saved the series. It's time for you to take over and finish the rest. And that's what the big fella did. It was a beautiful thing about our team. We had different guys stepping up in big moments. And we had the one constant in number 34 who brought it every single night. Just a fun team to be a part of. If I want to be in a foxhole, I want to be with that 94 Rocket team because we did not budge when we were down 2-0. We had the music blasting on the plane on the way down to game 3. We had the music bumping. Guys wasn't panicking. It brought us closer together, man. And that was just great to see and be a part of.
So the words Choke City came straight out of Fran's column that night. Fran, where did Clutch City come from?
Clutch City came from maybe the final 30 seconds of game 4 in Phoenix, when the Rockets have got this thing, wrapped up, and it's going to be tied going back to Houston. It's going to be 2-2. And Eddie Sefko and I are sitting there at the front row at courtside, the press table, not far from the Rockets bench. And as we're waiting for the clock to run out, this head pops in between the two of us, and it's Les Alexander. And he says 2 words, Clutch City. And he walked away. And that's...
Go ahead, Les.
We still talk about it, everybody. I mean, that's what the team is known as, Clutch City. And that's where it was. I'll give Les credit. That's all he said, those 2 words, Clutch City. Rudy, you've said this. I mean, ask Mario and Matt too. Would 2 in a row have happened without the Choke City experience? That whole, what you said, coming together with the positive tapes and then especially the following year in '95. Would one have happened without the other? Or would both have happened without the other?
I just got to believe that pain has to be in the formula. There has to be some kind of something that irritates you, that pushes you. And I got that idea from a book that Pat Riley wrote when I was a young coach. He talked about, we hated the Celtics and we hated the Lakers. The Lakers used to walk around in meetings and stuff, in the off season. They were always the cool guys. But the Lakers, compared to the Celtics, felt like underdogs. They couldn't beat them, and that was embarrassing for them. That's the spirit they needed to become a championship team. I think that Choke City, for me, I just feared that would be the label of me. So, I remember that guy. He coached for a while. He's the choker, and it sure inspired me. But the crazy thing is, you get in a pressure situation and you just want to control it and do it so much to just say, I trust these guys. If you could get up on them, you can beat them. And man, they went out there and did it.
It's amazing that Pat Riley, who coach of the Knicks that year, it was something he wrote that was key to beating Pat Riley a few months later.
Well, after the Suns series, you still had one more series to get to get through, to get to the finals. Was the emotion of that Phoenix series, did that help you keep going?
Well, it can help you and it could hurt you because, like I said, to be a champion, you have to overcome human nature. Human nature is to feel good about yourself and maybe lose a little bit of that edge after you do something big. We had to get it. We had to get it back.
I know you guys, you just wanted to win a championship. It didn't matter, but was there some, it came down to in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Knicks against the Pacers. And the idea, Mario's from New York. Everybody knows, New York is the center of the media universe. And was there something special about playing the Knicks in the finals, you two guys?
Absolutely. Me growing up 5 minutes from the Garden, 3 train stops. I grew up 3 train stops from Madison Square Garden. I remember watching Pat Cummins, Toby Knight, Marvin Webster, Ray Williams, all these shitty ass Knick teams I had to go watch. So I'm like, man, are they ever going to win? That really drove me to basketball. And, growing up 5 minutes for the Garden and in '94 actually playing there for the finals, ain't no better environment in basketball in the world than Madison Square Garden. The fans are on top of you. You got movie stars. The fans are just nuts. I heard stories about our fans. Kenny's cousin was telling me he was fighting Knicks fans during game 4 or 5. I don't know which game it was, but that's how it was in the Garden, just a great environment. And then, with us with the OJ situation, all kind of craziness went on during that '94 final. Go ahead.
Yeah, we had so that's game 5. And so people don't know. So you guys are playing game 5 while the OJ Bronco chase is going on. Matt and Mario, were you aware I was watching the NBC people going crazy because they all knew him. And you could look up to the suites and see Knicks fans because you didn't have cell phones then, so you couldn't follow it there. They were turning around and looking at the TVs in their suites. Did you guys during the game know what was happening with OJ Simpson and Alec Howley?
Yeah, so when back in that era, arenas didn't have like replay screens in them. So when we're out there playing, we couldn't look up at the screen and see what the replay showed. But in the finals, there was a little TV monitor down at the end of our bench. So we could look down there at the TV monitor and see what the replays looked like to see if the call was right or, whatever. And so we're playing and we look down at the monitor to see the replay. And I thought they were in commercial, I thought maybe it was a Ford Bronco commercial or something. I'm like, the game's going on. How come they're not showing the game? And we keep looking down there and the Bronco keeps going. And we're like, what in the heck is going on? So we knew that something big was happening and we could hear the murmur in the crowd. And eventually we got word that it was OJ on the run. And I was mad. I was like, they can show that on all the other channels. We're playing in the finals, man. Show our game.
Well, at least they showed it in split screen because me and you both, we were both watching that. I was behind you like, what the hell are these people watching on TV on the, like you said, the TV right near our bench. And they're not watching the game. They're watching, the juice is loose. The juice is loose, So they watching the OJ. But that was pretty interesting. Just a hard place to win. Thank God for Sam Cassell getting us that 1 W in game 3. But I felt us having the home court. And it's funny. I want to tell just a quick story. I remember after game 5, we went down 3-2. We staying at the Dumont Hotel. And I got my buddy with me, good friend of mine. And I'm distraught. I'm like, man, how we going to beat the Knicks? We down 3-2. And Akeem is staying on the same floor as me. He has his little white Muslim outfit. He got a couple of his buddies in there with him. So I stopped by. I said, what's up, Dream? He said, hey, man, what's going on with you? Why are you so upset? I said, Dream, man, we down 3-2. To the Knicks. We should have been beat.
You got a cough drop?
I said, don't worry, Mary, we're going home. No worries, we're going home. And when the big man, my mood just totally changed. When your best player, your leader tell you that we're going to be fine, and he went in and got it done, Dream's the man. He said, Mario, we're going to be all right. We got the last 2 games at home. And I never forgot that. And my boy looked at me like, man, Dream got crazy confidence and and that was what I loved about Dream, man. He lifted everybody around. He said, Mario, no worry. We're going home for 2 games and we end up getting it done. And he gets the MVP. I mean, just an amazing story. I tell guys that all the time. I mean, Dream had that.
I don't think we can look past how important it was in Akeem's journey as a human being when he rededicated himself to his religion, and it really changed his outlook on, like, early in his career he was raw, he fought a lot,
man, he's knocking people out. Bull, go ahead and say he's knocking people out.
And then we come back to training camp one year and Dream's like this calm, relaxed, confident person, and we're like, wait, we could see the change in him. And I believe that that's really what it took for Akeem, that sort of change in his personal life to become the kind of pro that becomes a champion.
If you guys hadn't won that game in New York in December, those last 2 games would have been at the Garden.
Oh,
wow.
You beat them on one game in the standings. That's how you got home.
Mario was talking about how hard it was to win in the Garden and the atmosphere in the Garden. This is before the renovations. So really people were even right on top of you. The Willis Reed Tunnel was there. So that's when players for both teams would come on and off the court together back then. And the other thing is the city was electric. The Rangers were in this and won the Stanley Cup. So the whole city was just nuts, intense for sports for that series, because by then the Rangers were done. They won it. They had the parade while you guys were in New York. It was not like almost anything else you'll see during a playoff series.
Agreed. Don't have our Houston team in New York a week no more. No more. We're in New York for a week. Max calling my room, man, let's go out. I'm like, man, we're in the NBA Finals, dude. You want to go party? But don't have us in New York a week no more. I mean, we're in New York the whole week for 3 games. So that was pretty interesting, man. That was pretty interesting.
Matt took time, though, to go with Akeem to the David Letterman show. And then Akeem was the star of the show and had Dave eaten out of his hand. But Matt, after the show, got to sit behind Anton Fig's drum kit and rap out a few beats.
Yeah, like Mario said, it was an amazing week. I got to go play Anton Fig's drum kit. I actually got to go to Game 7 when the Rangers won it. In Madison Square Garden. It was quite an experience outside of just playing in the finals.
I still say that's the loudest arena I've ever been in.
No question.
A goal in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. I've never been in well, maybe Sacramento, but with the cowbells, but that's cheating. But it was
I believe one of the days for the media interviews, they had you at the Downtown Athletic Club.
Right.
Because there were you're there are all these pictures of football players with their Heismans, and they were, we were doing interviews with the players down there one day. So
I think didn't they take OJ's Heisman out of the display area during that time?
Yeah. I don't know. I thought we might have done those interviews before that, but I don't remember. It's for some of us, it's more of a blur than for you guys, I'm sure. So.
Well, it's interesting to look back on it, 30 years removed. When we were right in the middle of it, we didn't have this perspective that we have now, looking back on it. And we were, to me, it was like 100% mental capacity, playing in the finals in Madison Square Garden. You could just feel the pressure on your shoulders. You could feel the crowd on you. And so we were just trying to keep our head above water, while we're playing in these finals. But now 30 years later, to look back on all the lessons we learned, all the things that we accomplished, all the friendships that got solidified into brotherhood, it really is great to be able to look back on something that special and have such fond memories.
So how did it feel to get back to Houston for Game 6? And then, the one that ends with Akeem blocking Stark's 3 for the win, and he blocks it. What was sort of the attitude or the mood as you play those 2 games back at then Compaq Center, or the Summit, I guess then?
Summit.
Is it for me or Rudy?
Oh, anybody jump in.
Go ahead, Mario.
It's always great to come back home. And like I mentioned, the story about Dream, felt real confident. And for him to make the block to take us into game 7 was amazing. All I remember is 2 of the best, probably defensive teams to ever play in the game. I have to put the Bad Boy Pistons in there. I got to put the Bulls team. But you got Ewan and Olajuwon. You got the best defense in the East and the best defense in the West. What you expect? You know, our series may have changed like 9 rules in the NBA.
Right.
We were wrestling out there. We weren't playing basketball out there. And I don't blame T for not playing me, because Rudy played me at the 2 and 3 a lot. And it was Anthony Mason at the 3, and I couldn't deal with that monster. So most of my minutes was guarding Starks and Hubert Davis. So I thank Coach T for not throwing me. He threw me down with the Wolves the next year. That year with Oakley, Mason, Charles Smith, Ewing, I didn't want no part of those gorillas down there. I tell you that. So I credit Otis, Robert Horry, Dream, having a deal. It was such a physical freaking series, man.
Let's throw in Carl Herrera in that too. Carl was the key to us
the
winning that
amigo,
championship.
OT. Absolutely. Good call, Bo. But I just remember how physical that series, how mentally drained after we won. I was happy, but I was freaking tired. I was like, these dudes, Bo will tell you, these dudes were just tough, nasty, and physical, man. That was a great series.
Yep.
Rudy, what was your? I know I was at the press table near your end of the floor for that Stark shot in Game 6. What were you thinking when he went up? I mean, was your heart's in your throat? And
It was. And I didn't realize until I saw a picture, I actually kicked my leg up in the air. I had my hands up and I kicked my leg up in the air. And I can't do that. I ain't that flexible. On that play, I was like, oh, we got to get it done. But just let me tell you something, because during that series, it was probably the worst matchup for the way our team was constructed. And that is, we relied on Dream so much. And it was the right thing to do, rely on him. But they had so many big guys, and the way the rules were then, they were just pounding on him. And it was okay to pound the guy at half court, then to pound him at the top of by bumping him, hitting him. And then when you got into the post, you could actually wrestle with them. And we just said, he's not going to make it. If we go and run our regular plays and go straight into him, into the teeth of the defense, he's not going to have much energy. They got too much manpower at that position. So we came up with a scheme where we would run a pick and roll on the opposite away from Dream, and they had an automatic defense. If we threw the ball to the roller, the man who was guarding Akeem had to leave Akeem. He couldn't, his job was go get that roller. And the guy who wound up on Akeem had just come out of a double team 30 feet away. So he was resting while all that stuff was going on, but we threw the ball around. And by the time that guy just came to him, now Dream was rested, he was ready to go. And somebody brought this up, we've been talking about that series a lot. Would he have had the energy to stay with a guard and block that shot if he was pounded through the whole game without that little bit of rest? Because he played heavy minutes. I think if we were playing nowadays with all this computerized, where you got to rest the guys, the computers would have blown up. Take him out. And we were right in there, and his heart's so big. He's there. He's gonna find a way to make the big play, and he did.
Well, when I mentioned
Rudy, tell everybody about how the when you came up with that run the pick and roll on the weak side to get Dream the ball without being physical. Tell everybody about some of the coaches that you respected were questioning what you were doing.
The guy who was there for my first game, Jack Ramsey, a guy I love, he came up to me at a restaurant and he said, Rudy, what the heck is wrong with you? Why are you running that pick and roll? Otis can't make that shot. And I just said, Jack, thank you for your help. No, we're happy with what we're getting. And he's like, he just shook his head like, the poor guy, I thought he knew something about basketball. But it wasn't we had patience where we moved the ball around and we stuck with it. Was it perfect? No. I was lucky enough. A guy sent me game 7 against them just last week. And it was one late night. I went and I looked at it. Man, there were so many broken plays and things like that. It just came down to guys going after it and getting it. It wasn't an X and O thing. After 7 games, what each other runs, and we had guys that, made big plays. And always remember Max making that 3 and running back and falling on the floor and guys jumping on top of them. It was just so rewarding because people don't know how hard physically and mentally to have that patience. Because your natural thing is, give me the ball, I just want to shoot it, Very proud of those guys.
Well, in that series, the whole thing was just a battle, which the NBA doesn't want 92-87 in the finals. By game 7, Akeem plays 46 minutes, goes 25, 10, and 7, which were big numbers in a series like that at game 7. And when I mentioned to you last week that he played 46 minutes, I remember what you said.
I can't believe I took him up.
Why did I take him out?
Should have played 48.
Yeah. That's right.
So when the game's over, the city is just, Rudy, you've been here as a player, you've been here as assistant coach, and just for the city of Houston to finally have that title, did you guys recognize how big that was for the city of Houston at the time?
No way could I imagine how big it was. And the image I got of looking at the tapes afterward was Dream sitting on the scorer's table and just looking at the confetti and the fans and just taking it all in. And what a wonderful shot that was. Here's the guy that got us there, our leader, our best player. And I cherish that vision.
Well, a story about that.
People don't.
It would never happen today, but about maybe 30 minutes before the start of that game 7, I was in the locker room. Again, today it's all so locked up so much, and you guys are one by one kind of going out to the floor, and I happened to look around, and the only 2 people left in the locker room are me and Akeem, and he's getting ready to put his sneakers on, and I kind of squatted down there nearby, and he just kind of looks up at me and he says, I said, what's going through your mind? Are you all tense and whatnot? He says, I'm soaking everything in. I want to remember everything that happens tonight. I want to remember the atmosphere of the fans. I want to remember every interaction with my teammates. I want to I want to soak it in. Win or lose, I want to remember this game as long as I can. And the last thing he says is before he finished tying his sneakers, he says, he looks at me and he says, remember this. And then he goes and he walks out. And that leads to the scene you just talked about. Because he said, if it's over, I'm taking it all in. And that's what he was doing when he was leaning against the table, holding onto the ball. Robert Horry got the ball and flipped it to Akeem. He made a steal and flipped it to him. And Akeem had a clear path to the hoop. And I think in that minute, it hit to him. He says, no, I'm not letting go of this one. And he hung on and he took it there. And I'm watching him there, as the confetti's coming down and everybody's crazy saying, he did exactly what he told me, 3 hours ago he was going to do. He soaked it all in.
And we had the game won. Like in the last couple minutes of the game, we all knew that we had won the game, but the game wasn't over yet. So we were like fighting to not celebrate too early and jinx it. but we also sort of knew we've done it. We've done it. And when the final buzzer went off and the crowd went crazy, and we spent several hours in the summit celebrating as a team with all of our family and everything. But then, you know, it's like after midnight, we've been in the summit enjoying, and we go outside, and Richmond Avenue is a party. You know, like the entire city's down there on Richmond Avenue. That's one of the greatest things that I remember, is how the city of Houston was able to celebrate our championship, and the city showed all other cities around the country how to do it. Everybody down on Richmond Avenue hugging each other. You know, there wasn't any rioting, there wasn't any fighting. It was just everybody just loving that the Rockets had won the championship. And still to this day, I get goosebumps thinking about all the people down there on Richmond just really enjoying what they had just witnessed.
Matt, aren't you leaving out one part of the championship scene in the locker room, though?
Oh, yeah. So I need to set that straight. Fran. So, you know, the trophy, right? It has the gold basketball on top. And the gold ball on top of the trophy is actually screwed on to the top of the trophy there's like a bolt that comes up and the ball screws on it. So after we win the championship, we're in the locker room, we're passing the trophy around, everybody's kissing the trophy. Oh, this is so great. Well, as we're passing around, the ball just a little bit just keeps getting more unscrewed. And so when Richard Petruska handed me the trophy, the ball fell off the trophy and hit the floor. And I'm going to tell you, a solid gold ball does not bounce. It hits the floor and thuds and rolls. And I remember Richard, I'm holding the base of the trophy. Oh my God. And Richard Petruska dove on the loose ball on the floor of the locker room. And we're like trying to screw it back on real quick. There's a big dent on the side already. So I need to set it straight. It was not me. It was Richard Petruska who broke the trophy.
And when you guys talk about the celebrations in Houston, I was thinking of what Rudy said after the championship, after winning it, because everybody remembers, don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion the next year. That the all-time great trophy presentation quote that everybody uses, all kinds of walks of life. But the first championship, I remember, I don't remember it exactly quote, maybe Rudy you do, but Houston, you've waited for this for so long, now you have it. Just totally understanding the mentality of the whole city, how this city felt.
Yeah, because I was a Houstonian too. And I lived through the Astros getting close. I lived through Earl Campbell and Bum Phillips and Pastorini getting close, that we really wanted to do that. And I said, I'm so proud to be a part of the team that got it for you. You know, and then I listed all my assistant coaches and stuff till they yanked the mic away from me. It was awesome.
Mario, you said, I think it was at the 20th anniversary gathering when you all got together there at the Toyota Center, that other championships have been won. I think, you know, and since then you got the Astros winning 2 World Series and 7 straight ALCSs and all that. But nobody can ever take away, you guys brought the first one.
Exactly. Ain't nothing about being the first. I just turned 60 last year, and I walk around Houston and people remember me like it's yesterday. And that's pretty cool. When you put a stamp on a great city like this, people remember that. They remember it like yesterday. So I'll go to the store. Somebody will come up to me, won't even say my name. They'll just do this. And that's pretty cool. You know, I'm not a star like Dream or Clyde or none of those guys. I'm a glorified role player, and I'm happy to say that. And just to be a part of a championship team, Bull said it, you're remembered from the rest of your life. And the most fun part about it was going to the Hall of Fame, seeing my coach finally getting into the Hall of Fame. That was big time. And me to be there to see it. Me and Sam were there to see it. And Hakeem, I mean, Rudy, 2 championships, Olympic gold medal. I mean, what more? Congratulations, Coach, on your Lifetime Achievement Award. Well-deserved. Took long enough. I don't know why they didn't give it to you a couple years ago, but well-deserved. But what a great city. You know, I thank the Blazers every day for trading me down. traded me to Houston and straight 2 championships. Still, like Bull says, still have friendships to this day. Vernon, Kenny, Carl Herrera, Otis Thorpe. So when I see those guys, it comes back immediately. You know, when you see those guys, you remember it like yesterday. I mean, just such great times, great stories on the plane. I mean, stuff we had to endure, being down 2-0, people counting us out. But the one constant was this group stayed together, man. Our group stayed together. We didn't let the outside noise enter the fray. We had great veterans on our team. We cared about each other. And being the first is so cool. And every time I walk into Toyota Center, my first thing I do is look at those 2 banners, and the memories come back instantly. Just a great time.
I mean, winning 2 championships, obviously, but the stat that establishes your legacy forever is in those 2 seasons, you guys were 8-0 in elimination games.
Yeah, amazing.
We're amazing. Go ahead, Rudy.
Yeah, you know, going through one elimination game is a hell of a human experience. It bonds you together that I trust these guys, they trust me, we're going to get through this. To do it 8 times, we were so poised when we were in a big, big game. The other teams, you know, I look at a lot of the other championship teams, they didn't have to go through all that stuff. What these guys did was just amazing. You know, I look back and think about how lucky I was. I'm not an expert on anything, but I know what I like. And the Rockets gave me the opportunity to pick these guys, to pick Mario. I wanted this guy, you know, here's a trade. Somebody else didn't say no, whatever. I got him. I got to pick Sam. Nobody wanted Sam, a great player. After I had met Sam and I watched every college game he had, I fell in love with this guy. We would call him up. Well, who's brought you in? Nobody's brought him in. I says, I can't be wrong. He's better than the guys rated ahead of him, you know. And another wonderful thing that happened is last night in Boston, after they presented me that great honor, I got to hug Sam right after because he was coaching that game, man. And these guys are my brothers now for the rest of our lives. Every time I see Mario, instead of, you know, Mario wanted to play all the damn time. That's why I loved him. Now I see him, the son of a gun's got the biggest smile on his face, you know, and it's just, there's nothing like it.
Well, Mario never smiled back when he was playing.
Absolutely. I can smile now. You're right about that. And all my teammates would tell you after a loss, don't sit next to Mario on the bus. Don't sit next to Mario on the bus. Because I didn't, especially my role, John and Fran, it took me forever to get to the NBA. So when I got there, I made sure I appreciated every second on the damn floor. I don't believe in no load management. Rudy was right. I want to freaking play all the goddamn time. I was so bad, I can admit it now. I was hoping Vern or Robert got hurt so I could get in the lineup. That's how bad I wanted to be in. But that's just a competitive spirit. I never wanted my teammates to get hurt. It was just my competitive spirit. I played with some competitive guys. Treem, Vernon, Otis. Those guys rubbed off on me, man. Love being in the bunker with those guys. When things got tough, we never splintered. We came together. And Rudy said it. 8 elimination games. Shaq said it best in that game 1. They went up 20. They jumping like they won the damn championship. And they look at our bench. We're just calm and poised. We've been there before. We understood the moment. And thank God for Clyde, that big second quarter. Kenny Smith, dream tap in game 1. Nick Anderson bricking. The rest is history. I always tell Shaq, I'm one of the few guys that swept you twice. I swept you in Houston, and I swept you in San Antonio in '99, big fella. You got swept twice. So bring the brooms out.
You know, Rudy was talking about the brotherhood.
TNT show, Mario. I think that would be a good addition. So
Exactly.
Rudy was talking about the brotherhood earlier, and I'll never forget when Akeem's going in the Hall of Fame, he grabs me, pulls me in this little room to the right when Rudy called. And I got to tell you, Rudy, you talked to him for a little while, and I'm listening. And you know, Akeem was so moved, so choked up by what you said about what you guys shared and accomplished together. It's one of my favorite moments in 40 years as a sports writer is watching Akeem hear from you as he's going in the Hall of Fame. You know, it's a great moment because it runs deep. Those emotions, it's not just about times to chat about old times. It's still new. It still feels the same.
Yeah, well, Jonathan, I want to thank you for telling me that, because I was very lucky to get that opportunity. For some reason, things aren't like they were where everybody goes to the Hall of Fame. I didn't even know when it was. I'm at home, and Carol Dawson says, Rudy, take this number down. This is Akeem's number. He's ready to go out there for the Hall of Fame. And I do, and I call him. Now, we had traded Akeem, and I don't know how he felt about that. I didn't know what his reaction was going to be. And his reaction was so doggone good that I became paralyzed in my seat. I had tears in my eyes. He says, Coach, this is our honor. We did it together and all that stuff. I got goosebumps just talking about it. And that is one of the greatest moments in not only my sports thing, in my life. And I feel just blessed that I had that opportunity. And you verified it, Jonathan. Thank you.
It was great. He was so he appreciated every word you said, and you were, as always, incredibly gracious. You talked about so much was accomplished that a lot of it was thanks to him, and it meant a lot to him. I loved it. It was Fran told me once, wherever he takes you, you go. So like Fran getting in the limo to go to the David Letterman show with him, that was a chance. Akeem said, yeah, come on in here. And wow, I was so happy that I did.
Yeah. Well, that's what's been so great about as you guys have discussed about the team, and I don't know, just the memories that you have and that I think people in Houston have from that era. And I really want to thank you for taking the time to do it. I know you guys have real jobs, Matt, Mario. Fran doesn't have
Not
a
me.
real job. So no, I want to appreciate y'all taking the time. Our little allotted space is about to cut off, but I want to say, yes, thank you for that. I know, I was an editor here watching all the games, and Fran and Jonathan writing, and you guys, and it was a great time for the city, and I think we all remember it. So we appreciate that. So thank you very much. So
well, I'm ready to go out to Oshman's and see if I can find some gear.
No question, man. I got all my Rocket stuff back there, as you can see.
I just remember, like, Jay Goldberg, the PR guy, at some point there in the bowels of the summit, he was like, Reid, come here. The president's on the phone for Rudy. You can watch Rudy. You can stand here while Rudy talks to the president. It's like, and I think Rudy was like, hey, how you doing? So
guys, this is the embodiment of our team right here. This is the embodiment of beautiful team. Look at this picture right here.
I've never seen that. I got to get that picture.
And it's signed by all 5 guys, Rudy. Everybody helping number 34 up. Not just you got 4 guys helping the big fella up. And that embodied our team right there.
That's it. That is it.
Matt, you mentioned earlier about, the clock, we kind of knew we had it won, but we didn't want to let it show. But Akeem throws that pass out to Max for the 3, and he buries the 3. You all let it out then. It was a dog pile at midcourt.
Yep. Man, it feels like it was last night.
You get chills talking about it. I get chills just talking about it because I remember that feeling. We all hugged Max, man. And we said we had it now. It's a wrap now. That's what we knew we had it.
All right.
I'll say to you guys that yeah, I've covered a lot of stuff around the World Olympics and Super Bowls and all that. In my career writing, those 2 seasons were the most fun I've ever had. Not just because of what it ended up in the championship, but because of you guys, the personalities. It was incredibly fun.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you for that. Yeah,
We all
thank you so
champions.
much.
I mean, all of us.
The city of Houston.
Exactly. Clutch City, baby.
I'll be looking in the mailbox for that 17 jersey.
I got you, Blind. I'm gonna send you one, brother, for sure.
Thank
sure
you
you
guys
sign
for
it.
doing this.
I'm most definitely signing for you.
This was-
Absolutely.
It was great, guys. Thanks for doing this.
All right.
I got a
Jonathan, thanks
great
for putting
idea.
this together, man. Thank you, man.
All
Good to see
right.
I got a great idea. Let's do this again next year.
All right. Well, we have another 30
Same cast next year. We're gonna be here, brother. Back
All
to
right.
back.
All right. That sounds like a date. So, all right. Well,
Thank you
thank you,
guys,
everyone.
man.
Again, I'm going to say,
Thanks a lot.
I'm going to turn this off for us. So thanks for the time. We appreciate it.
Good to see you guys. Bull, T, John.